Hi guys! Welcome back, or welcome to if you are new here. Today I'm going to be going through my 10 best reads of 2022. Yes, we are almost fully through January of 2023, and before we really get into 2023, I thought I should break these down for you. If you guys watched my last video of my worst reads of 2022, I read 95 books in 2022, and though I wasn't posting on here, I had thoughts, I had opinions. I read some beautiful literature, beautiful stories, beautiful books, and today we're gonna go walk through them all. In 10th place was a book that I was able to read via NetGalley, so thank you NetGalley for producing or gifting me this arc, which is kind of funny because the book is called The Arc, and this was a romance story. Didn't go into it knowing very much about it, but it is basically these two people and they both sign up for this dating service that is able to a fault, like 99% or 100% accuracy, find you your perfect match based off of all these different factors, and they do all these calculations and et cetera, and that's what this story is about. It's about these two people who sign up to do this, not experiment, but sign up to do this dating thing and meet, and it's their journey and it's their love story, and it took me by such surprise. I don't know if that's the correct way to say that sentence, but I was really floored by how much I enjoyed this book and how much it stuck with me. I was not expecting it. It was kind of just this random book that I thought the cover looked cool of, so I asked if I could read it, and then they said yes. But it was so beautiful and it has stuck with me. I read it very early in 2022, and I still think about it, and I think it is so underrated. I don't think I've ever seen anybody on Book Talk, on Bookstagram, on BookTube. I've never seen anyone talking about this, so this is your note. You should definitely go and check that out. It was just very beautiful and so tender. I loved it. Chef's kiss. The 9th book was a self-development book / memoir. It's called The Year of Less by, I think it's Kat Flanders. Don't quote me on that. You'll see it right here. And this book was one of the last books I read in 2022, and it changed the course of my 2023. Because of that book, I decided to take on the challenge of doing no spending or no buy for 2023, and that book was the main catalyst for why I decided to do that. Okay, context. So this book is a memoir / self-development of Flanders deciding to kind of change her whole life and see how much money she could save, see how much she could live off of by having a year of no spending. She had a list of, this is what I can buy, these are all the things I cannot buy, here are the exceptions, and then she stuck to that list. And I just thought it was so interesting, and I thought it was such a unique challenge to see A, if you could do it, B, what it is that you felt like halfway through the year. What am I gonna be like, oh man, I really wish I could buy this, and what are things that I don't even think about anymore, then they're not even top of mind, and I was just buying to buy to, be in this cycle of consumerism. And I'm really excited. I'm enjoying it so far. I love the challenge, and I love the idea of kind of stopping and putting a full stop, halt on my consumeristic tendencies, there we go. But yeah, so that was book number 9, The Year of Less. Book number 8 is one that I wouldn't necessarily say it is underhyped, but I feel like Tessa Bailey, who is the author of Hook, Line, and Sinker, is so underrated. I think that her books that I've read have been just as good as, Emily Henry. I think she's like just on par as well, and I'm surprised that she doesn't have a bigger following or more people, hyping her up and throwing out her name into the gauntlet of cute rom-com books to read. Hook, Line, and Sinker is book 2 in a duology, it is about sisters. So the first one follows the eldest sister, and the second one, which is the one I read and the one that's on my list, is about the younger sister. And it's both of their cute little romance rom-com journeys with, you know, rugged men. And I just thought, yeah, it was fabulous. It had just the right around us. Why am I getting all tongue-tied? It had just the right amount of spice, and it was beautifully written. I enjoyed it. It was such a quick and fun read. So that was number 8 on my list. Number 7, I have the physical copy of, and I actually didn't end up reading the physical copy. I think I read it on my Kindle, but it is The Night Circus. Oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful book. It was so much fun reading this. This is exactly what you want out of a novel. It's like an escape. You are literally transported to a different world. The imagery and the beauty that she writes is incredible, and it was such an escape, and it was so much fun. This is about a circus, but it's also a romance and you know, a clashing of forces all coupled in one, and all rolled into just this really intricate and beautiful images that she's able to put into our minds and to just like show us this like wonderful landscape that we are taking a journey on. So number 6 is another memoir, and this is Crying in H Mart. If you've read it, you know. If you haven't, you should. This is such a pull on your heartstrings. It is, you know, it's heavy on the heart, but it was so beautifully written. And this is a story of a girl who is dealing with the sickness of her mom and then the eventual death of her mom, and just weaving through stories of her childhood and showing images of what her mother was like growing up, and then also kind of bringing us to this present of her in sickness and what that life looks like now and their relationship. And it was so dynamic and yeah, just very beautifully written. It really, yeah, truly does pull on your heartstrings, and it really makes you feel. And I thought it was such a great read, and I'm really happy. I listened to it as an audiobook, and I believe it was read by the author, and I just, yeah, couldn't recommend it enough. It was very beautiful. We're halfway through already. Book number 5 is another book that took me by surprise. It was 7 Days in June. It's another book that I feel doesn't get enough recognition, and I highly recommend reading it. This is, I don't even want to say it's a romance novel because it is so much more than that. It deals with loss and grief and family dynamics and, you know, growing up and kind of becoming this person and finding your identity. But then weave throughout all of that is this beautiful romance that takes miscommunications and misdirections and years and years in the making. And yeah, it was a Reese's book club, as you can see. It really, yeah, really took me by surprise. I was shook how much I liked this. I kind of picked it up just because I thought the cover was cool, and here we are now, me saying, read this, read this, read this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so number 4, it honestly could be number 1. This is definitely the best sci-fi book that I read in 2022, and it is one of my favorite science fiction books that I've read. It's part of a trilogy. I'm even dropping hints now. It's part of a trilogy. Book 2 only recently came out, and I also read that one in 2022, but there was just something about the first book and how much fun it was. So this is the Atlas 6. If you know the story of it, it's really interesting. The author self-published and the book gained a lot of traction, and then it got republished once it got picked up by, I can't even remember which publishing house, and it is so much fun. It's magical and weaves in, you know, modern our society realms and ideas, but it is about these 6 people who are asked to join this secret magical society, and they all have their different magical capabilities. And the twist is that only 5 of them will get initiated. And so it's kind of a challenge of who's gonna get initiated and who's not. There's sleuthing going on of what's really happening, and it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love this book. Book number 3 is Station 11, and this book was so much fun. It was one of the books picked for my book club, I believe, and it is about the world after the apocalypse, and it follows different groups of people, and we get to see how they have handled the apocalypse. We also get glimpses of what their life was before, and it weaves these stories of these people that they don't know that they've interacted and they've crossed paths, but they have, and how that affected where they are now and where they're going to be in the future. Also know that I think HBO made a TV show about it that is also well regarded and has a lot of fan base, a big fan base, and a lot of people behind it. I haven't watched it yet, but I really want to, because I heard that they're both good on their own, as their own things. So giving myself a moment after Station 11, and then we will dive into the TV show. So book number 2, going back a little bit to my last video again, I was talking about a series of books that were about 20-something-year-olds going through it, and they didn't know really what to go on, and they didn't know what they were doing, and I'd wanted to read them because I was like, I'm 20-something, I'm struggling, what's my life gonna look like? And a lot of them were disappointing. But this book that is number 2 on my list was exactly what I wanted to read, and it uplifted my heart and kind of showed me that it's okay if I don't really know what's going on, and it's, you know, kind of gave me some guidance and some reassurance in that. But I don't think that was, I mean, maybe it was, I guess it probably was a point, but it wasn't the point. It wasn't the purpose of this story. So number 2 on my list is One Day. It's came out, I think, years and years and years ago, and it was made into a movie with Anne Hathaway and Jim Sturgis, question mark? I don't know if that's his name, but it's a really interesting way that this is written. So it's one day every year, just one singular day on how these 2 people's lives are looking. So it starts when they meet for the first time, question mark? Meet for the first time at graduation from college. And then it shows that one singular day every year and how their lives have changed and how they've stayed friends or how they've drifted apart. And it weaves this beautiful story of what goes on in your life after you graduate and how they can differ, and how what you think you want might not be what you need or what you actually want. And it also weaves this like beautiful romance, and it is heartbreaking and soul crushing and uplifting and beautiful, all wrapped into one ball. And I love this book. It holds a very dear place in my heart. I felt like I read it just when I needed it, and I got out of it just what I needed and was looking for. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful book. Highly recommend. So number 1 on my list is number 1 because not only is it a fantastic book and it should be read, it should be consumed, the story is beautiful, the storytelling and the writing is wonderful, but I feel like a big reason I have it as my number 1 is because if you were like me, you might be nervous to read it. It might scare you just a little bit because she's thick. This is a really thick book. It's really daunting to think about reading it or listening to it or whatever. And I just think that it is so worth it. So number 1 on my list is The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. She is, let us see. Okay, we're at acknowledgements. 790 pages. So she's not for the faint of heart, but she is so worth it. She's gorgeous, she's lovely, she's wonderful. This follows the story of a girl and her family and her ancestors. It goes back and forth between, what is her name? I always forget. Ailey Pearl Garfield, and her ancestors from back in slavery, and it shows how her ancestors and their actions influenced where she is in her life, and it shows the hardships of what she goes through, what her other family members go through, and it is just so incredible. This is the first book I read and finished in 2022, and it has stuck with me. It will continue to stick with me. Yeah, that's my recommendation, that you should read this book. I mean, you should read all these books. I hope you enjoyed this. This is just a small inkling of some of the amazing books and some of the amazing authors that I read in 2022. If you guys want to hear more about the books, I'd be happy to. Just let me know. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it, maybe some books to add to your TBR list, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.